Hey guys, MichaelBtheGameGenie, and on today's video we're going to be talking about bad or hard NES games. You know, are these games bad, or are they just too hard?
Good luck.
So you know what guys, I wasn't even going to make a video this week. October's right around the corner. I love the spooky season. I was getting myself ready, so I was going to take this week off to do that, but the response to my last video was just so positive. You guys really inspired and motivated me. Plus, here we are on the drive to 25,000 subscribers, so I want to keep that momentum going. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I never ask anybody to do this, but subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notification, like, tell your friends, whatever you can do, share this out there, and we'll make it to 25,000 subscribers. Anyways, today's video is an excellent one. We're going to ask a really fun question. We're going to take a look at some NES games and ask the question, are they bad? Do they deserve the reputation they get? Or is it that they're just too hard and people mistake them for bad because of their difficulty? Anyways, here's the list. So let's dig right in and ask, is Back to the Future by LJN a bad game, or is it just really hard? Well, it is an LJN game, right? Case closed. It's a bad game. Well, I don't know if I feel that way. I think it's fair to say that this game was disappointing to a lot of people because it isn't what they were hoping it would be. As soon as you start the game, it's not really straightforward as to what it is, and has a lot of elements that are confusing to some. What is the gameplay like? Well, it's really unique, and I think that it's a hybrid game taking a page out of Paperboy while also adding some elements of a top-down scrolling shooter. I personally really enjoy the gameplay and find the challenge it presents fair, and with pattern memorization you can become quite good at the street stages. Some people also complain that it makes no sense that you are just collecting clocks throughout the stages. What does that have to do with Back to the Future? That is a fair critique, but if you can separate yourself from trying to tie it into the movie and see it for what it is, it will make sense a little bit more. The goal with the clocks is to keep the picture on the bottom of the screen from fading away. In this game, that picture represents your health bar, and the clocks basically just represent power-ups. The health system here works much like it does in Adventure Island, where your health, or here time, is constantly draining, and you need to collect the power-ups to stave off death. People also complain about the music, and yeah, that's a weird one, but it's already been explained in so many videos that the music is actually the music from the movie, The Power of Love, but they never secured the license, so in order to not get sued, they sped it up a bunch, and now it sounds like it does. Lastly is the game's graphical style, and let's face it, it isn't that pretty of a game. I have said it until I am blue in the face that graphics and music are something that makes a good game great or special, but not enough to make a game bad. What I think really upsets people is just how unforgiving this game is. If you are good enough to navigate through the first 4 street sections, you make it to the malt shop, where you have to throw sodas at the oncoming gang members. You have to take down at least 50 members to progress in the game. If you are unable to score at least 50 takedowns, you lose a life and get sent all the way back to the beginning of the 4th street stage. That's right, it's not an immediate try again, which is so frustrating because it's so easy to mess this up. If you are successful, you move on to the next 4 street stages, where the difficulty ramps up again, and then it's off to the high school, where Lorraine will throw her hearts at you, and you have to catch at least 50 of them in a notebook to progress. I am out of practice, and I just can't seem to catch the rhythm here, so I lose all 4 of my lives on this boss fight. Well, guess what? This game has no continue, so I had to start right from the very beginning again. I have to do all 4 street stages, pass the malt shop, and 4 more street stages before I can try again. And the worst part is, it only gets harder from here, so you will get real practice on the opening stages trying to beat this one. Personally, I'm a big fan of Back to the Future, and I think it's super challenging, but I want to know what you think. Is it bad, or just hard, and that's why people don't like it more? So you want to talk about a really hard game? Well, look no further than Silver Surfer, because this one is a doozy. In fact, this game could have very easily showed up on my last video, but I put a pause on including it because we really had to ask the question first, is this a bad game, or is it just really hard? Well, I think I have established the fact that I think it's extremely hard. Well, at least for me anyways, and here's an example of what I mean. The other two games we are going to be looking at today, I can at least make some progress in. But Silver Surfer, I can barely make it to a checkpoint within a level before all my lives are gone. It really is that hard. Well, what makes it so hard? One-hit deaths is the first thing that comes to mind, but I am really getting ahead of myself here. So Silver Surfer is a shooter which is notoriously known for one-hit deaths, and for those good at shooters, perhaps this isn't a big deal, but I find this extremely challenging. The game starts up and lets you choose one of 5 different stages, much like in Mega Man. The stages are a combination of side-scrolling shooters and top-down, and really both are as equally difficult. You ask what stage should you start on? Well, I honestly can't tell you because again, they all seem equally as difficult, meaning that I die quickly, and often, right at the very beginning of each of the stages. The problem with the challenge in this game is that everything is an obstacle looking to kill you. Typically in shooter-style games, your only real objective is to avoid or destroy the enemy hordes coming at you and their projectiles, and that is true with this one as well, except you also have to stay within these boundaries that aren't really clear. That's right, the level itself is an obstacle, such as here on this stage, where not only do you have to protect yourself from the enemies and their oncoming fire, but you also have to navigate inside the narrow pathways and at one point even shoot down a wall to let you even get out of the structure. Then you take a look at this top-down stage, and there is so much room on screen, but actually you are forced to fly within the jagged path the level is carved out for you, all the while again trying to take down enemies and avoid them and their projectiles. It's a lot. I can see why this game was featured on an episode of AVGN because it's so hard that it defeats you, so it's bad, right? Well, I don't know if I'm ready to say that yet because while insanely hard, it's actually still pretty fun to play. First thing I want to mention is the amazing soundtrack. This game has some awesome 8-bit music and graphically, it isn't groundbreaking, but it's a decent looking game. The next thing is the variety of levels from side-scrolling to top-down is a nice touch and versatile enough to keep me interested in progressing. It also controls really well. I mean, when I die, it's not because the game is cheap, it's literally my fault because I don't know the patterns or I haven't mastered the mechanics just yet. Last off is the difficulty, and while challenging now, honestly, I'm not super experienced with this game, and I have a feeling with more practice, I could definitely see me learning the nuances of the levels and getting skilled enough to maybe beat a level. Heck, I have friends who have even no-death runned it, so nothing is impossible, right? I leave it to you. Is this a bad game like everyone thinks, or is it just really hard? Probably the most successful game on this list is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, I didn't know a single kid growing up who didn't have this game for their NES, or at least had rented it constantly. The funny thing is, I don't really remember anybody thinking it was a bad game when we were kids. Sure, there were some people disappointed that it didn't follow closer to the cartoon in regards to the enemies you were facing. I definitely remember everybody thinking it was way too hard and almost nobody could make it past the damn level. I also remember people preferring TMNT 2, the arcade game, more, as that was closer to the experience in the arcade, and certainly the difficult was more accessible to us kids, but saying that the first game was a bad game? Nope, I don't remember that. Lo and behold, I get really back into retro gaming and the NES in my 20s, and somehow it's universally known that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the NES is a bad game. Of course, some of this has to do again with the fact that the angry video game nerd made a video about it and people immediately assume it's a bad game. Well, maybe it is for a lot of the reasons I mentioned above. I mean, there are times when I'm playing it and I have to stop and look and realize that if I wasn't playing as a turtle, what game am I even playing? More than anything else, it's a difficulty that really makes this game hard to enjoy for a lot of people, as we get 2 waves of difficulty here. We get our standard, the enemies are tough, and there are so many of them, so you really have to learn the nuances of how each turtle controls to be able to succeed against them. Then we get the second level of difficulty in the sense that this game is cryptic and essentially a Nintendo Power game, where you could waste so much time taking wrong turns and fighting enemies you don't need to progress. I will also mention the dam, which we as kids thought was almost insurmountable, but to be fair, once you know where to go, it's actually not too bad, provided your team has lots of life. No, the game actually gets really difficult after the dam. So we have established the game has legendary difficulty, which I don't think is a surprise to anyone, and absolutely could have shown up in my last video, like Silver Surfer, but again, I wanted to clarify if it's bad or just really hard first. Well, obviously that is for you to decide, but consider a few things in making your decision, such as that sweet Konami music, as TMNT features some of the best stage music on the NES. Graphically, it's a bit of a mixed bag, as some things just look okay, while other things like the characters and the main villains look fantastic, and more representative of Konami's work on the system. I also like how varied the gameplay is. The first stage is just jumping from sewer to sewer to building until we rescue April. The second stage, we make our way to the top of the dam until we jump in and do the legendary underwater bomb section. The third stage is more hopping from location to location looking for specific items this time that will let us blow up barriers with the party wagon to finding a tightrope to progress across the top of a building. Not shown because I ran out of lives. I did say this game was hard. Last but not least, consider the controls, which are very good, and outside of some wonky jumping with platforming at times, you typically die because of your skill and not the game cheating. So with all these things considered, is TMNT on the NES bad? Or is it just really hard? So guys, that's my list. Those are 3 games that could be considered bad, or are mistaken for bad because they might be a little difficult. Usually I pass my opinion in these videos and I tell you what I think of these games, and I kinda did in this one, but I wanted to leave it a little open-ended because more than what I think, I want to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comments. Are these games bad? Do they deserve the reputation they have? Or are they just a little bit too difficult? And that difficulty could be mistaken for the game being broken or bad. Let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you feel there are other games that fit this category, like Street Fighter 2010 might be one that's really hard and some people think is bad, let me know in the comments down below. If I make a future video, what other games should I include that can be considered bad or too hard? Anyways guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to reading your comments. This is MichaelBtheGameGenie, and I'll talk to you next time.